Hello, this is Pastor Malin Smith at New Hope Baptist Church here in Watertown, New York, and I welcome you to your Morning Hope, where today I want to talk to you a little bit about God's amazing love. And I'm reading from 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 to 9. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent His only Son into the world so that we might live through Him. That's 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 to 9. And love is one of the most common themes we find in John's Gospel as well as in this first letter with which we're studying. And it says here in verse 7, Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. So what can we say about the amazing love of God? Well, let's note first that love is an expression of grace. Now, the new birth, or what it means to receive Jesus Christ in saving faith, the new birth carries with it this divinely given impulse to self-sacrificially, unselfishly put God and others ahead of myself. That's what we mean when we talk about love as revealed here in 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. But now this is an expression of God's grace given to the believer in saving faith. And so love is an expression of God's grace because it characterizes the one who's been born again by the Spirit of God. But what else can we notice about the love of God? Not only is love an expression of the grace of God, but love is an essential attribute of God. Note, if you will, 1 John 4, verse 8. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. And I want to focus in there on that last phrase, God is love. When we say that God's love is an essential attribute of God, we're not saying that God just merely has love. No, this is what He is by nature. And all of God's attributes function in this same way. For example, in Psalm 99 verse 5 we read, Holy is He. So we see that God is holy. He doesn't just have holiness. This is what He is by nature. Or again, in Exodus 34 verse 6, there we read of how God is long-suffering. He doesn't have long-suffering. He is long-suffering by nature. We also read in Psalm 136 several times where we read there how God is merciful. And there again, just as we see in God's long-suffering and holiness, we understand that God is merciful. This is what He is by nature. In Titus 1:2 we read that God does not lie, which tells us that God is truth. By nature, God is true. We also understand in Romans 11:33-35 that God is all-knowing. And Paul speaks there too of God's wisdom. Oh, the depths of the riches and the wisdom of God. How unsearchable are they? So there we see that God is all-knowing by nature. Again, Psalm 139, concerning how God has these essential attributes. He's everywhere present. He knows where I'm at any given time because He's at every point in space. And He can causally affect anywhere at any time that He pleases. In Malachi 3:6 we read and understand that God is unchanging, or what we call immutable. So again, these are not just merely characteristics that God has, rather these are characteristics that describe what God is. And so we can say the same thing concerning His love. This is what God is by nature. He is the God of love because that's what He is by nature. So when we talk about the love of God, it's an expression of His grace. It's an essential attribute of God. But notice thirdly, love is at the epicenter of the cross. 1 John 4:9. In this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent His only Son into the world, so that we might live through Him. I love what Paul writes in Romans 5 verse 8, where we read there, that God demonstrated His own love for us in this, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Note, God didn't state His love. Instead, He demonstrated His love. So we see that love is at the epicenter of the cross. We see that love is an essential attribute of God, and love is an expression of His grace. This is the amazing love of God. So this is Pastor Malin Smith of New Hope Baptist Church of Watertown, New York, bidding you godly hope for this day.